Many investors do not fail because they chose the wrong stock. They fail because they mistake their own experience for a universal rule. That is the uncomfortable idea at the center of Morgan Housel's The Psychology of Money. This book asks why someone who looks rich can be less financially secure than a janitor, why one brilliant trade can destroy a lifetime of gains, and why the best return money can buy is not a higher yield, but more control over your time. Here, wealth does not mean the bigger salary or the more impressive lifestyle. It means the unspent resources and choices that remain when life becomes uncertain. At first, those ideas do not seem connected. Housel connects them with one argument. Money is not only a math problem, it is a behavior problem, shaped by the private story each of us brings into the market. And once you see that, this book stops being a collection of money tips. It becomes a guide to the 3 mistakes that can quietly ruin almost any financial life. Confusing your history with reality, confusing luck with skill, and never deciding what is enough. Housel begins with a chapter called No One's Crazy. Imagine 2 people watching the same market crash. One sells everything before the losses get worse. The other buys more. Which one is irrational? Housel's answer is that we do not know enough yet. Maybe the first person watched a parent lose a home during a recession. Maybe the second grew up in a decade when every decline was followed by a recovery. They are looking at the same chart, but they are not seeing the same risk. Someone shaped by inflation may distrust cash. Someone shaped by a market collapse may distrust stocks. Someone who has only known rising asset prices may fear missing out more than losing money. This is Housel's distinction between history and experience. History is public. Experience is private. You can show a person 100 years of market returns. You cannot erase the worst financial year of their life. That is why Housel does not begin with the perfect portfolio. He begins with the person who has to hold it. The real question is not, what should an ideal investor do? It is, what can you still do when fear becomes louder than the spreadsheet? That is the first deep lesson of the book. A strategy is only rational if it is survivable for the person using it. But understanding your own fear is only the beginning. The next problem is harder. Even when you make a good decision, you may have no idea how much of the result was luck. In Luck and Risk, Housel tells the story of Bill Gates and Kent Evans. Both were gifted students at Lakeside School. Both had rare early access to a computer. Gates went on to build Microsoft. Evans, Gates's close friend, died in a mountaineering accident before his adult career began. Housel is not saying that Gates's talent did not matter. It clearly did. He is saying that talent never works alone. Luck and risk are always in the room, even when the final result makes them invisible. That matters because finance loves winners. We see someone make a fortune and assume that their result contains a formula we can copy. But a reckless decision can look brilliant in a favorable market, and a careful decision can look foolish after a shock no one predicted. Housel wants us to separate the quality of a decision from the quality of its outcome. Before you admire a result, ask what the person risked, what they controlled, and what they were simply lucky enough to avoid. This is not an excuse for bad decisions. It is a defense against copying someone else's visible success without seeing the hidden risks underneath it. And that brings us to the rule Housel cares about most. In Getting Wealthy vs. Staying Wealthy, Housel makes a distinction that many people learn too late. Making money and keeping money are different skills. Making money often requires optimism. You have to believe a risk might work. Keeping money requires humility. You have to believe that something will eventually go wrong. Housel uses Jesse Livermore and Abraham Germansky around the 1929 crash. One made a fortune during the crash. One lost everything. Yet Livermore later lost his own fortune. The lesson is not that risk is always wrong. It is that the first job of money is to keep you alive financially. Because compounding only works when you are still around to receive it. This is why confounding compounding, tails, you win, and room for error matter so much. A few extreme events can shape an entire investing lifetime. You will not forecast every one of them. So Housel's answer is not better prediction. It is more room. Room for lower returns, room for a bad year, room for life to cost more than you expected. You do not need to predict the next crisis. You need to avoid one decision that makes recovery impossible. But survival has an enemy that no spreadsheet can measure. The feeling that what you have is never enough. Housel introduces this danger in Never Enough. He tells a story about Joseph Heller and a billionaire hedge fund manager. The manager had earned more in a short period than Heller had earned from his famous novel. Heller's answer was that he had something the manager might never have. Enough. It sounds philosophical. In this book, it is a financial warning. When more becomes a status contest, it has no finish line. Someone will always have a bigger house, a bigger fund, or a more visible life, and that comparison can turn a secure person into a reckless one. Housel develops the same idea in Man in the Car Paradox, and wealth is what you don't see. We see the car, the watch, and the house. But those things show spending, not wealth. We do not see the savings, the investments, or the choices created by money left unspent. His contrast between Ronald Read and Richard Fuscone makes that visible. Read accumulated wealth quietly over time. Fuscone looked more visibly successful, then faced serious financial trouble. The point is not that comfort is bad. The point is that visible consumption is never proof of financial security. Enough is the line that stops you from risking a life you value for a comparison you never chose. And once you stop treating wealth as something to display, Housel can finally explain what it is for. In Save Money, Reasonable versus Rational, and Freedom, Housel gives his quietest answer. Money is valuable because it creates options. Savings let you wait through a bad market. They let you leave a bad job. They let you say no to a desperate loan or an unreasonable demand. Unspent money is not idle by definition. It is time purchased in advance. This is also why Housel prefers reasonable behavior to perfect rationality. A plan can look beautiful on paper and still fail because its owner cannot live through it. Financial freedom is not a number that removes uncertainty. It is having more control when uncertainty arrives. So what does the psychology of money actually give us? Not one formula for everyone. It gives us 3 lines that protect almost every financial life. Do not confuse your own history with a law of finance. Do not confuse luck with skill, and do not risk what you need for more than you truly need. This is the strength of Housel's book, and also its limit. It cannot tell you which asset to buy or what return to expect, but that omission is deliberate. Before a financial plan can work on paper, it has to survive the person who carries it. Everything else has to fit the person you are, the responsibilities you carry, and the life you want to build. That is why this book is not really about becoming the smartest person in the market. It is about becoming hard to destroy.